Good evening. I'd like to call to order the June meeting of the Upper Island Township Stormwater Authority. I'd ask everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Mr. Walsh?
Present.
Mr. Fairchild?
Present.
Mr. Martin?
Present.
Mr. Castranio?
Present.
Mr. Cochran?
Present. Under Chairman's announcements, this meeting will be live streamed for those who wish to attend virtually. A recording of the meeting will also be available afterward for anyone who cannot join us in real time. There is no public present, so there will be no public comment. We can move right on to the consent agenda. It's made up of 3 items: approval of the minutes of the May 21st Stormwater Authority meeting, consideration and approval of bills in the amount of $46,718.92, and consideration and approval of staff reports, which includes the Township Manager's report, the Solicitor's report, and the Engineer's report. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I have some questions about the various reports, but I can wait until
Okay, well, this would be a time to do it.
whatever. I had sent them earlier to Tim and gave me a nice detailed response. The questions had to do with like complaints about, I guess, the policy of what basins we mow and that we don't mow. I'm not clear on that. And then why aren't we, I've seen other townships like Lower Allen redo their basins, you know, as a rain garden with the pollinators and all that in it. And I just didn't know what our policy was in that.
Sure. So I'll let Jason speak first about the applicability of making all of our basins rain gardens.
I could probably help with both of them. I know the Parks Department and Public Works try to do the regular mowing twice a month. I know they've been getting some calls recently because it's been raining numerous times a week and they're just behind schedule on a lot of these basins. So some of the calls are coming in because the grass is tall naturally. Regarding the rain garden conversion, most of our township-owned basins have been converted in some form, or we have incorporated amended soils and plantings that are thrive in wet conditions. And they are indeed rain gardens or water quality basins, as we refer to a lot of them. In most of them, they are planted with like an Ernst, E-R-N-S-T seed mix. There are native wetland species of mixes that we plant, and really they should only be mowed maybe once, at most twice a year. They need to go through a full germination cycle. Depending on the plant species in a particular basin, that could vary on the mowing frequency for those. So it's ideally you let it grow tall and mow it in the fall, and just really maintain that once per year.
Okay, and I guess I didn't clarify, maybe some of the neighbor complaints was what was adjacent to the road or maybe the edge of the basin, which certainly we can understand mowing that more frequently.
Yeah, so the areas that we would have those plantings would be in the bottom or the floor of the basin itself. So I think just once again, the complaints that we've been hearing are just the fact that the grass is tall because they haven't been able to keep after it.
So the specific one at, well, Mayfield and Wineberry, that's the one we're renovating.
Right.
Yeah, so I think those complaints might have some age to them at this point, because that basin, of course, we didn't really realize it was the townships, and it had not been maintained for, well, since it's been built, I think. So part of that complaint was the fact that, it's just overgrown. Then certainly there's a very steep embankment, and I think Public Works and the crew had trouble taking care of that at some extent because it's so steep. So They've since cleared that entire basin, and it should be in a form that they can maintain it better now.
And the other one, and it was my own maybe faulty recollection.
Could you bring your microphone down close to your?
Sorry.
You could,
On
on the video, you're kind of hard to hear.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
We had discussed it at the Public Improvement, Stormwater Improvement meeting yesterday, the Bumblebee Hollow culvert replacement, I guess, on a driveway. And I wasn't sure what the estimate was. I think it came back as 250,000.
Yeah,
And
that was a rough number by memory. I did pull that up today, and I believe it was in the range of 262,000, slightly more than what I had mentioned at PI. There is a percentage in there for a retaining wall, I think close in the range of just under $50,000, and then some incidental items associated with that construction or installation of the culvert.
Okay, I happened to walk by the one we replaced on McCormick Road last year that washed out, which they did a great job, and I think that came in at what, 60,000 or something altogether. So I'm trying to reconcile like the replacement of one like that versus what's on Bumblebee.
Well, the type of culvert is much different. So on McCormick Road, we were able to use a large plastic circular pipe, which is much cheaper, if you will. In this case, what we're looking at is a reinforced concrete box structure, similar to what we just bid out for 105 or Bridge 105 on McCormick Road, which was several $100,000 for that one as well.
So more similar to that. Okay. And then the third one was the, I guess it's a conceptual stage at Spring Run and Nittany Drive. And is that the one where that gentleman came in and spoke to us? He's the neighbor. It's more inside that development.
No, it's actually right across the street from our park entrance. And the configuration there is that there's a major pipe that comes down Nittany and a major pipe that comes down Spring. So the two of them converge there in that pipe, and that pipe's rotted out. If you get down on your hands and knees and look up, there's major pieces missing. But even still, it appears that both of the pipes may be undersized for the water that they're bringing. But I'd leave that up to engineers.
Yeah, we did some analysis on this. There's roughly a 200-acre drainage area to that point. Really aren't any stormwater management controls within that drainage area aside from inlets and piping. So there aren't stormwater basins controlling runoff from those developed areas. The existing pipe is 64 inches wide by 45 inches tall, and it's undersized by 100%. We basically need two of those in order to pass a 100-year storm event at that location. So we're working with DEP currently. We have a pre-application meeting scheduled for July 17th, where we're going to meet to discuss options for replacement of that culvert. DEP frowns upon double pipe barrel sections or for stream crossings of that nature. We've had them denied in the past. In this case, the substitute is another concrete box culvert, and our initial estimates for this was in the range of $270,000. We don't want to spend that much money at this location. We're going to try to talk DEP into allowing us to put in a double pipe section there, which we think would be adequate for the flow. But they had to accept that in this condition. We've had success with that in the past. We replaced two pipes on Hawthorne 3 years ago, and they initially denied it, but then we provided some justification as an existing condition because there were two pipes in place before that, and then we presented the cost increase to put a box in there, and they ultimately accepted it. So we're trying to get some indication whether that'll be approved in this case, and we can save the township some money before we proceed any further with the design work.
Sure. And then that'll be a project for next year, I take it. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you. And then if we're doing a consent agenda, just the bills, it would be a comment.
Sure.
We got the printed copy. I was pleased to see we had the easement payments in there. I didn't total them all up, but maybe were they 20-some thousand?
7, 8, 9, 14, yeah, 22 maybe,
Yeah.
21, 22.
So we're, fair and square with the neighbors in my mind. So it was just good to see. So that's it for my comments.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hearing no further comments, I'll call for a vote. Unless I hear a negative vote, I'll instruct the secretary to record the roll call as unanimous. That would be unanimous. Moving on, we come to new business. There is no new business listed under old business. Do you have any comments about Cedar Run as to where we are?
Not at this time. We're starting to discuss getting the phase two initiated. Really, like I mentioned before, our focus has been trying to get this current stormwater project underway. I think we're in pretty good shape with that, and it has direction now with the contractor. And but it is time to start entertaining some of the other options for additional improvements upstream.
I was actually looking for just an update on phase one because people watching don't have the written information.
Yeah, phase one, the contractor is in the township currently. It'll be about 3 weeks and they will move into the Webercroft neighborhood to start sanitary sewer work. They figure there's probably about a month of sanitary sewer work for that particular contract, at which time they will then transition into the stormwater improvements within that development. And there's probably another 3 weeks or 4 weeks of construction related to the infrastructure that we're going to install in that neighborhood.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from members of the board?
Jim, I just wanted to comment or bring up the Penn Live story about an independent group
Okay.
did sampling in the Susquehanna River and some of the tributaries, and they found E. coli, at the Lower Allen Park, which is near to us. So I posed the question if we have an issue or not. I don't believe we do, from what Cody said at the sewage treatment plant.
Yeah, I'm thinking that's probably sewer, not stormwater. Just for the place to speak about it would probably be best addressed
Well,
at a board meeting, but
The people that have the combined systems that dump into the creek, I just was left, it seemed like it has happened before in the Yellow Breaches. Or am I misrect?
I don't know.
It could be
I'm
seasonal.
Are you aware of someone that has a combined system that dumps in the Yellow Breaches? I'm
Somebody further upstream, and I see in Tim's response that Garrett is going to talk to the Watershed Association or something. Maybe we
Okay,
can go further up.
I mean, I'm aware that like City of Harrisburg has a combined system
Right.
dumps in Susquehanna. And I think there may be somebody upstream Susquehanna that dumps into one of the cities further up, but I wasn't aware of anybody in the Yellow Breaches. That doesn't mean it didn't exist. I just wasn't aware.
It's in process. It was interesting. And then the other question was, I didn't know when it might rise to the occasion of having to warn our own residents not to use the creek.
Okay. So Cody's going to look into that. Okay, great.
Okay.
Anything else? Hearing no other business, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
meeting adjourned.
No, I don't know. You can ask him. The meeting will come to order. We're now holding a meeting of Upper Allen Township Board of Commissioners on June 18, 2025. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Please join me in a moment of silence followed by the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. May we have the roll call, please?
Commissioner Cochran,
Present.
Commissioner Walsh,
Present.
Commissioner Fairchild,
Present.
Commissioner Castranio,
Present.
Commissioner Martin.
Present. Thank you. By way of announcements, I don't have any other than don't forget that Fall Fest is coming and we're getting ready to celebrate the 175th anniversary of our township. And then we'll have the biggest party we've had in a long while over at Winding Hills, and refresh my memory, September the 26th. Thank you. So more information about that as we move along. With our meeting materials, we had the minutes of May 21st. Are there any questions, additions, or corrections?
Move approval.
Been moved to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Thank you. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you. Thank you, Alexis. With respect to visitors, I believe, the traffic, we do have an item on the Gettysburg Pike, and I'm assuming the answer is that's, you want to speak about the Gettysburg Pike. Okay, fine. And then Judy, you have Public Works. Is that an agenda item or?
I didn't see it.
Okay, come on up.
Yeah, Mike's not on.
Thanks. There you go.
Martha Bailey, 450 East Lisburn Road. I just, following through on last Board of Commissioners meeting, the Bishop Bridge was not accepted from the county, but the township appropriated $900,000 towards it. And I'm trying to understand what happens to that money.
Well, I can say with confidence, it will be spent, but we haven't taken specific action because the money that was specified for the bridge, since we're not following through with that project, I would suspect it'll be reallocated to another capital project. But that will have to be by virtue of commissioner action.
Okay.
I'm not aware of that procedure, Mr. Martin.
I'm sorry?
I'm not aware of that procedure. I just thought it just doesn't get spent this year.
Oh, yeah,
And when
right.
we revisit the budget in the fall,
You're correct, but since it's not spent for that purpose, it could be reallocated or suggested for a different project if that was the will of the board, but it would have to go through the
Yeah, I
process
mean,
of
the other
advertising, et cetera.
project would have
Yeah.
to already be budgeted or something. Oh, so, okay.
Moving then to consent agenda, we have reports from our various staff, including the engineer and the solicitor. Are there any questions with respect to those reports?
I just want to I had some questions about the solicitor's report, but we did discuss some of them in executive session, so I appreciate the answers and the follow through.
Anything else?
Put on the executive session.
Thank you, Eric, for that nudge. I want to announce that we did meet with our solicitor in executive session between the Stormwater Authority meeting and this meeting, and for issues of client solicitor privilege, no action taken. And then I would back then to the consent agenda. Any questions of staff? And then we have bills to be paid in the amount of $930,010.53. If there are not questions on that, I would accept a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I had some questions on the bills
Go ahead.
that I had forwarded.
Let's do this.
Do the staffers.
Is there a motion to accept the consent agenda minus the disbursement of bills?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried. So the staff reports are approved. We'll move now into the approval of bills. Eric?
I had a question about several bills. On page 5, 1 to Viola Water for Friendship Park, I guess, for $1,483.50. And this was to water the sports fields. And I had inquired about who requests this or how it gets authorized. And I guess it explains there's water for the sports fields. I guess would have been more for month of April.
Yes.
We do not seek reimbursement from individuals for individual expenses outside regular maintenance cost, such as water, electricity, diamond text, etc. These fees are charged to the sporting groups, are in place to help offset these costs. Fisher and Friendship both have irrigation. I guess I wasn't really aware that they were irrigated, I guess, because I never saw a bill that large maybe, but it
Well-
was dry in the spring.
Yeah, if you recall, April was about as dry as May has been wet. So I think that probably, I'm guessing that we watered more frequently than we would in normal Aprils because of that.
But are these are the
Athletic-
soccer fields or are the baseball fields also irrigated?
Yes.
They are, okay.
And I don't know, softball and Winding Hills, I think we do irrigate that as well, do we not?
I think so. I'm not positive though.
I think they may still be irrigated with the water wheels.
Yeah.
I don't think they have there's in-ground irrigation at Friendship and Fisher, and I think the water wheels are used at Winding Hills, at both north and south.
So the park department like takes it upon themselves. They think it needs it or something.
Yep. It's up to
Okay,
them.
all right. And the other bill was also park related. It was to the Hilton for the NRPA conference for Chad for $2,166.72. I'd asked, obviously this was budgeted and it looks like we're a little bit over the budget for these type of events for the year. I just, struck me as being a little bit excessive, not like the government rate. Staying at the Hilton, it used to be $55 a night or something you were allowed, this was a $2,000 bill. So maybe it was for a longer period, I don't know. But, I was given an answer about it.
And I think, if I may, Eric, I think that those charges included 4 different conferences that in his response.
Well, there were other training categories. And it followed, there was another conference a month or so ago. I'll go back and look, but I assume that's in the total that you gave me, Tim, or that Zach came up with.
Correct. Everything was in that
Because
total.
it'll tie into that account,
Correct.
specific account
Yep.
number. And then I had asked about, there was engineering work done at Generations Park, like from CS Davidson in the amount of $6,344. And I was asking what that was for. And this was for the NPDES permit for the park, along with updating the conceptual master plan. And it was paid for out of the bond proceed fund, which is not in the budget. But we do have a balance of $220,151.40 in that fund. And then my last question about bills was, I guess, architectural door lock sets at Winding Hills North and South in the amount of $3,199.30. And I know we had upgraded the locks last year, and I guess this is a further upgrade or separately for the restroom, or it introduced a new feature, I guess a fob that they can use to what contractors or others
Yeah,
do.
so they can use the fob, and then that can also be controlled off-site, so we can let people in and out through that system as well.
Okay. So anyway,
Anything else? Do I have a motion to pay the bills?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved in second. Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you. Moving then to public safety. Steve Parsons.
Thank you. Monday night, we had a presentation here on electric scooters and the safety operation of those. That went well. I think we got some really good information out. Information is always on our website about this issue. Since the meeting, officers have had contacts with 10 juveniles operating scooters on the roadways illegally. Parents of those juveniles were also contacted and educated about the issues here. So we're working on the education and the contact portion of that as well. Today I found out that our 2 patrol vehicles that we have budgeted are at the dealership. And that's in addition to the fleet, so we could have a marked unit at the schools at all times for the district resource officer and a replacement for the patrol sergeant's vehicle, which currently has 110,000 on it. So I'll start working on getting those outfitted, which depending could take a while, but we'll keep moving.
Well, we waited a while to receive those, didn't we?
Yes, we did. Other than that, I saw you had the P25 radio, if you want me to mention anything about that. Or-
I was going to ask for Chief Schomburg, and you guys can comment on it together. Go ahead, Tom.
All right, for last month, we had 73 incidences and a total of 6.12 personnel per incident. My personnel did not decrease, however, the call volume increased. So that's why we're showing 6 people per call. So we're up a little bit last month at 73 calls. The new radio system, we're being told by county, will be in service by the end of the year. We're looking at probably very early December. The fire department purchased the equipment to upgrade the station alerting system. And as of Tuesday, I think we ordered 25 new pagers that will work on the new system. Our old pagers will not work on the system.
So from the fire department perspective, when the system is ready to be trained on and go live, you'll have the equipment you need to be fully P25 compliant. Is that correct?
That's correct. Once
Great.
our radios, much like the police department, are sitting at county right now.
Okay.
And county will give us the go ahead to install them. The pagers that we ordered, all they have to be is programmed. So according to county, they'll do like December 1st, 8 a.m. total switch over.
Right.
There won't be any a slow buildup or anything. It'll be, cut the old system off, start the new system all at one time.
How are you equipped, Chief Parsons, for radios and equipment? Where does the police department stand?
Yes, all of our equipment is also in the warehouse being programmed. We will be getting our portables first. That's my understanding. Those are going to be significantly upgraded from what we currently have. There's a GPS where an officer can be out in the field away from the car, and county control can put the location right on him. So if he gets too far away or other officers responding need to find out where he is, they can take them right to him. And then the mobile radios and for the cars, those are also at the warehouse. And it's my understanding that the old ones will work with the new system as we get the new mobile radios installed into the cars.
Okay.
So we can kind of piecemeal that for implementation. So it's going well.
I have a question for Chief. Chief, I have a question for you. Last Thursday afternoon, I was going down Market Street, southbound Market Street, down into Bowmansdale, and about Hillcrest, I encountered 2 young boys pushing their bikes up in my lane, which was okay. They were trying to face traffic, and I understand that. And immediately as I ran around the turn, there were 2 other boys riding their bikes in the other lane coming up. And when I got to the intersection in Bowmansdale, I had the green light, but it was the early green. And on the other side were 2 kids on a scooter without helmets or any protective gear, and 2 boys on bikes, one on an electric bike sitting in the middle of the traffic lane with the traffic backed up behind him, and one off on the shoulder. And I know you've talked about scooters. How do electric bikes figure into this conversation? They're covered under the motor vehicle code, bikes are, I guess, but where do electric bikes fit? And should they be on the side of the road? Should they be sitting in the middle of traffic? I was at a loss, but it struck me as unusual.
I think they'd be operated similar to a bike in terms of how they where they're ridden on positionally on the road, but they have to adhere to all the traffic laws, just like a vehicle would. Some of them need registered and inspected. In fact, that was one of the juveniles that we encountered. He was on an e-bike and it had a motor which required that it be inspected and registered, and it wasn't. So we had a conversation with his father, and the father was receptive, and we'll make sure it's addressed with his son. But people just can call us. We can get there if we're not tied up on something else, but we'll get there and we'll have conversations, and that's what we intend to do. So,
But I'm just still not clear. Does a bike, is a bike allowed to occupy a lane of traffic and back cars up behind it, or should it be off on the shoulder?
I think it can be operated normally on the roadway.
Okay.
There's that new law that was a few years ago where you have to give 4 feet when you pass.
Right.
So hopefully the bicyclist is furthest to the right inside the lane. And if there's enough shoulder, hopefully the bicyclist is, and it's safe. He could ride on he or she could ride on the shoulder as well.
Yeah.
That would be the ideal. So.
Okay. I was just wondering. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions for Judy?
Martha Bailey, 450 East Lisburn Road. It sounds like it's come to a head here that we really need more education for bicyclists in the township and scooter riders. And I think the chief did a great job jumping on that program. But I wonder if we could do more. I mean, maybe it could be repeated. Maybe we could put a sign in front of the township building. Maybe we could form a committee. Maybe we could have the Harrisburg Bike Club help us with some education. They have education programs. I know PennDOT has their own bike pedestrian coordinator that maybe we could consult them and get some more ideas, because we've identified a need here.
Yeah, thanks.
Mhm.
And I think your presentation from Monday night or whenever, that is on the website, correct? Or you were going to put it up?
Yeah.
I thought it was, but.
I'm not sure if it was recorded. But
Okay.
all the information that we covered is on our website.
That's what I was referencing.
Yeah. And I'm going to have Officer Sanguinito make as part of his curriculum as District Resource Officer education on this issue. So he's going to be covering this with the children at the schools in Upper Allen on safety with electric scooters and bikes.
And to your suggestion, I think that if there were civic clubs or church groups or neighborhood groups that would invite an educational session, I'm sure that one of the police officers will be happy to meet with them. Because I think that's really we have to get the word out.
I'm trying to get the name of the bike World Cup. In the past has done through the recreation department. They did education with, they used to hold a bike rodeo, and then they would fix the kids' bikes and talk about safety. Maybe we could contact them and see if
Good
they
idea.
would help in the parks.
Chief, maybe you and Tim, we have recreation programming through the summer, et cetera. And if we could get in front of those kids, that'd be
Yes,
another.
we know somebody and deal with somebody from the clubs you mentioned, so we can.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, but I meant our up around Mechanicsburg summer recreational program, they meet various times, so good.
Yeah, but we still should also, I mean, there's still, even if all the children and adults who are using these other types of vehicles are abiding by the law, I mean, we still should be stressing to people to watch, if you're in a car, don't be distracted on your phone. Keep looking out for all these vehicles.
Didn't
I
the
mean-
Commonwealth take care of that? It's now illegal to
Right.
even hold the phone, let alone use it while you're in a car, so. But your point is well taken, Rick. I mean, it takes parents, riders, and motorists to be alert and cooperate. I agree. Okay, moving then to planning and zoning.
Yes, back before you tonight is the fantastic plan. This was discussed at the last meeting and action was tabled so that the applicant could address some issues dealing with sidewalk installation as well as buffer yards. So before you is a revised plan. there is a letter that states that sidewalk improvement and required buffer yards would be installed and completed prior to the issuance of the certificate of occupancy. If the board so chooses to call on that deferral, I believe there was some discussion from the owner of Zimmerman's with regard to a trail along the back end of the property. So now we're looking at the sidewalks on South Market Street. There is one additional waiver being requested with regards to the stormwater ordinance for requiring above-ground infiltration facilities and emergency dewatering to the bottom elevation, and that is in your packet. And then there's also a modification to the buffer yard requirements. While the plan does show the buffer yard, there are some existing trees along this basin that are mature, and you can see them on the plan. But I do have some pictures here. And the applicant is asking that these serve as the buffer instead of taking them down and putting in new trees and plantings. And then there's also some information with regard to adding some additional trees along this area to further provide a buffer to some of the residential neighbors to the south. So all of that is before you, along with a revised plan. There is a time extension request in there in the event that, based on tonight's discussion, the applicant would need more time. I'll let them speak to that. But otherwise, we would recommend that you consider action on the deferral, modification, and waiver, as well as the plan.
Thank you. Are you representing the plan, I presume?
Yes. Good evening, Joe Burgett from Burgett and Associates. As Jen had mentioned, we did go back and speak to our client, and he's willing to install the sidewalks out along South Market. So there's a note on the plan that basically says that we will, after the plan is approved, we will submit plans showing the sidewalks to staff, also to PennDOT, get that approval. And our client that's going to own the Fantastics is going to be installing it along both properties, which will connect up to the existing sidewalk that's up there now. So, but that is a time intense process to go through PennDOT and designs and all that. So we would ask the board if they may conditionally approve the plan. That would be a note on the plan, which it is on there, that we would take care of that after the plan.
Jen, I know that when we pulled deferrals in the past or have asked for sidewalks to be installed, excuse me, we've given some time allowance, 6 months, a year. What would be a reasonable, or would you recommend that? Because I talked to the owner of the adjacent property, and as you stated, he's very willing to install that, have that sidewalk installed, but not within 20 days or something.
Right, and so when we call on deferrals or require sidewalk improvements, while the first class township code says 30 days, that's not a lot of time. So we typically give about a year.
Yeah, okay.
So with regard to needing PennDOT permitting, that may take some time. I would say, even including that in your time frame or a year after receiving the PennDOT approval would be, I think after receiving the PennDOT approval, you wouldn't need that long to construct the sidewalk, but that could be a timely process, just getting the HOP from them. The other thing is you just got the HOP.
We did, yes, ma'am.
So I don't know if that's something that you could amend through PennDOT for
We'd
the
probably
sidewalk.
just put a new one, a new application
New
in.
one. Yeah, I'm not sure what they would prefer. But,
Yeah.
maybe
We did just obtain that PennDOT approval.
Good.
And we did obtain a email this morning from the Conservation District.
Yeah.
They're okay with the plans. I just got to add a note to the cover page, so.
Yeah,
Sure.
and we received notice of all that earlier this morning.
Good. Other questions?
No, I'm happy about all the answers you brought back tonight.
Thank you.
I just don't like putting it off for a year. I would be more inclined to tying sidewalks into your certificate of occupancy for the building, like they need to be. I mean, so you're gonna have,
Yeah, I think the only issue is
not
with
for a
that.
building permit, but occupying it.
Right. Any issue with that is if you get into the sort of the time of month that, with the winter, it's kind of harder to put the sidewalks and stuff in with frozen grounds and stuff like that too. So it's always a timing thing. My client's willing to put it in, trust me. He's willing to do all of it. Within a couple weeks from today, we'll go ahead and start the design process of the sidewalk and get that to staff so you can see it's moving along. But I would probably think if we submitted to PennDOT now and got the approval by the end of the year, they're not going to want to build these things until next spring. Put these things until next spring, but the building may be constructed and eligible for occupancy prior to spring, so.
Does the permit go in our name for sidewalks in the right of way?
So typically we are listed on there just because of ownership. But it's the applicant, like he would apply for the HOP permit, but I think a lot of times they require like even awareness letters from us. I know
That's
with
true.
driveways,
Yeah.
we could write an awareness letter for the sidewalk if needed, although typically PennDOT does not ask for that for just sidewalk improvements.
Okay.
But they will list us under ownership as well, just by default. Because they usually do that with just the municipality as a whole.
I'm just not comfortable not leaving it out there that it might happen. I really,
Sure.
I mean, if you're up in the winter, kids are gonna come. We need, that was our argument, that children are, kids are gonna wanna walk here or skate here or something. I
Well-
hate you being open for any amount of time without sidewalks.
Or we could, an alternate suggestion would, we could tie it to have it completed before we issue the occupancy permit. If it's a harsh winter or if it gets delayed permitting or something, you would have obviously the right to come in and propose an
Extension.
extension or amendment to that, but it would help put the pressure on, as you're suggesting, Rick. And I see a difference between the sidewalk in front of the property of your client. That definitely has to go in because that's part of this application. The sidewalk in front of the existing property to the west is already under a deferral. So to me, it makes sense to give them more time perhaps. I'd like them both done together, but.
And they would be done both together because our client, Fantastics, is going to be building both of them at the same time.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
yeah. I would think that April of next year, May of next year would be a good time frame.
Yeah.
Because I think we could definitely get the approval by end of the year. And then, like I said, winter's gonna set in and we probably may not be able to get it constructed, but April, May of next year, we should be fine. But I'm guessing the building's probably gonna take 4 to 6 months, probably 4 to 5 months to build that. And that's probably gonna be close to, November, just in December. So they would I want the building to sit there empty all winter long.
No, I understand.
I appreciate the movement on the sidewalks,
Sure.
I'm kind of sorry it had to come to that. I thought
It's
maybe
okay.
the trail was a less expensive solution, but
Yeah.
I'm okay with the year myself, but because in the sense that it's going to go to the car wash and then there's no sidewalk at the Turkey Hill there. So
Right.
people are going to have to be walking across grass or something to get to it anyway. So.
Well, they do use the Turkey Hill parking lot now, but, as you suggested, it's on your client's best interest to get that sidewalk in as soon as it's permanent going,
That's right.
because that's access to
That's right.
the property, but, okay. Other, questions or discussion? So I think any comments from the audience on this plan? Okay, if there are no other questions, then we have a suggested motion on the existing sidewalk deferral to modification, a waiver, and then the motion. So let's take the deferral first. As I understand it, this would take away the current deferral that's in front of Zimmerman's Automotive and Tire Pros. And we would, I guess, retract that deferral. So in fact, it means they put
Correct.
it in.
Because you issued a deferral back in January with the intent that this issue would be studied further.
Is someone prepared to make a motion?
I'll move to require the deferred sidewalk improvements along 2324 and 2234 South Market Street be completed as part of this development plan in accordance with section 220-5.3.b of the codified ordinance. The sidewalk and any necessary ADA compliant ramp improvements along with the detailed spec sheets shall be identified and provided for on the final plan.
Do you want to add a time on that or no? Have it completed within a year.
Now, let me just question, I have one question. So my original thought was that we were going to,
We're trying to talk them through that right now.
I'm
Right.
sorry.
So I'm trying to figure out, so now, is that prior
Right
to-
now, it's build them on this plan. We're trying to talk them into a year
Okay,
or
okay.
whatever
But a separate plan,
as part of the deferral.
correct?
As
Okay,
part of the
I'm sorry,
non-deferral.
got it.
Non-deferral, yeah.
Yeah.
If you'd like, you just add a sentence on the end that
I'm just not sure. I mean, I'm kind of with Rick. I'm not sure that I want people going there before there's sidewalks, to be honest with you. But what was the feeling of the board? You want to give them till April? Is that
spring, I mean,
with said sidewalks
May
to
1,
be completed by
May 1.
May 1?
I'm fine with that. So that's, Alexis, that's part of the motion with an added sentence, okay? Is there a second?
Second.
We moved in second discussion. So I think as I understand Jim's motion now, the existing deferral is being retracted. And then both of these properties are required to have sidewalk installed no later than May 1st, 2026.
But it would be separate plan and separate design that would be submitted to staff so that this plan could still continue through. Because this settlement can't happen on this property until such time that sidewalk.
It doesn't address that at all.
Really,
All it's doing
Really,
is,
so really, Josh, we need a modification, Jen, right, of that. We need to retract the deferral and then add a modification to our requirement for a sidewalk, making it not part of the plan and at a separate date down the road.
Yeah, my thought was that if you were going to do the design, you submit the design for us to review and approve, and then you just put that on your final plan before it gets recorded. That way it's part of the
Then we have to get
recorded
PennDOT
plan.
approval before that ultimately can be approved. So that could take some time. So my thought process
So I
was,
see you don't want to hold up the sale.
yeah, so
I guess.
my thought process
Yep.
is we would modify the deferral and keep the deferral and understand that deferral is good till April.
So we
Or May
could
1st.
keep the deferral like we did whenever we did that in February or January. And then as a separate action tonight, call the deferral in that the deferral is we're making the deferral as of May, it has to be in as of whatever date that was.
Right, but just like HOPs for access requirements, we were just saying, typically there's a note on there that can note that the HOP is required and with the understanding that there might be slight design changes based on PennDOT's approval, but you could still show the sidewalk design and spec sheets on the final plan.
I mean, I can show the location but the grading and the slopes and all that from PennDOT could change depending on actually where they may want it, but.
Right, because they'll have the final say on that.
We've done that in the
But-
past, even for deferrals, we
Yeah.
have been requiring it to be shown on the plan, just so
We
we
show
know it
like-
can be built.
Yeah, just like a temp, just like a tentative,
Right.
possible location of the
It would have
sidewalk
to be bonded.
pending the approval from PennDOT.
it's a placeholder.
Okay, sure.
So, Josh, just so you're involved in all of this too, so there's a deferral on putting in a sidewalk in front of the existing business property. And then the adjacent property is being sold to his client. And the ultimate is that we want sidewalk in front of both properties. But I think to your credit, they're suggesting that they don't want a deferral or something pending on the plan that will prevent the sale of the property from the current owner to the future owner, which is to occur 60 days ago. Well, I mean, but it's imminent. So however that can be done, the green lights, oh no.
An idea that I had is can you defer or can you delay the effective date of the deferral or make the effective date of the deferral May 1st? Is that
So the existing deferral would expire May 1st.
correct?
And then, but then what about the situation on the current plan?
The whole thing is, it's all under this plan in front of us is the entire parcel, Zimmerman and this.
Okay.
Correct.
Oh, okay. So then the current deferral would include
Yes.
his or your client's.
Both lots, yes, sir.
Okay.
So I'd
Does that
move,
work, Jen?
Yeah, so Josh, you're saying that the deferral would expire May 1st or that, are they still required? I guess it would need to be worded that they're still required to have everything installed by May 1st.
Correct. So the deferral is currently in existence.
Right. and-
Remain in existence until May 1st, 26.
Yeah, giving it a
Does
sunset
that make
date.
sense?
so we would move to,
You would call the deferral basically on May 1st.
move
rather
to
than
call the
tonight.
deferral on the property effective May 1st, 2026, at which time sidewalks need to be in place.
Yeah, if we call the deferral, you'd have to have been before that.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay?
Does that work, Rick?
I would like that, is it possible you can show them on the plan and have that note on the plan so it's recorded?
I can show it on the plan. We just all have to understand that when we get the PennDOT, it could slightly change.
Yeah, but you can have the deferral note on the plan
Yeah.
with that date.
Yes, sir. Most definitely.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we would also ask too that for any bonding of the requirements, that be done through us.
Sure.
And then that could satisfy your requirement for PennDOT.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd scratch that and just say, I'd,
This development plan. Do you want to withdraw your motion?
yeah, I'll withdraw the original motion.
And Phil, are you okay with that?
Okay.
Okay, so Alexis, we just withdrew the motion that's on the floor.
And
Jim?
so I would move, I would move to call the deferrals on 2324 and 2234 South Market Street effective May 1st, 2026, at which time sidewalks need to be in place. And that the sidewalks need to be shown on the plan. Okay?
And bonded.
And bonded if, yeah. And bonded. All right. You good with that?
Yes.
Are you okay with that motion, Josh?
Yes, although do you still want to put in the sidewalk and any necessary ADA compliant
Yeah.
ramp?
Okay, sidewalk and any necessary ADA ramps.
That
Yep.
last sentence, add down Alexis, great. Phil, can you second that one?
Second.
Okay, discussion.
You can still come, like if it's April next year and it's gonna be 2 months, you're not gonna get them in, you need to come back to the board and.
Most definitely.
But I suspect you might be pouring sidewalks in February because you want to get that place open, so.
Yeah.
There's incentives to get the job done.
But we didn't say that the occupancy was going to be held up for that. Though.
Right,
We
correct.
didn't.
Right.
No, we didn't say that, but
But he's going to get it in as soon as possible.
other discussion? Comments from the audience? Yes. No, wait, you know the drill, Mr. Winnie. Come up here.
Good evening. My name is Eric Manning, 309 East Meadow Drive. Hello, Ken. Nice to see you.
Good.
Just want to ask a quick question. I can't discern it from there, but when the adjacent property to Zimmerman is purchased, will the sidewalk continue on to the Bowmansdale development? Because there are
No,
sidewalks in the development.
you are correct. And at this point, they're only obligated to put the sidewalk in front of the
Their
auxiliary
property.
property.
Okay.
And then there is a gap
Yeah.
from that point down to the roadway that goes, what's that street?
Rolling Hills, no.
Something.
No, yeah.
Anyway, but
There are sidewalks that go up that street, but they
There are.
don't.
They're
come
on,
along
they're on the
Market.
street, but they end at the
They
top
end
of
up
the
on-
street and they
They are
don't
not-
connect.
Market
Right.
Street. So you are correct that there will be a section along South Market from the subject property to that next street that will not yet have a sidewalk.
And Turkey Hill will not have sidewalks.
But both of
But
those
Aqua-
are required, they're under a deferral now. That could be called in.
Correct.
That's
Both
correct.
those
Well,
properties.
I think the Turkey Hill site is under a deferral. The site that Mr. Wenig's referencing is not, because I don't think that was ever part of that property.
No, and that's an individual property
Yeah.
owner, so we would need to have more discussion about that. But it wasn't required to put the sidewalk on that portion of South Market Street.
And I understand that's not required or expected from Fantastic and the owners, but as a township, for proper sidewalking, is there a way is there something in your power that you can require that association to connect it?
It's not an association, it's an individual.
Oh, it's an
It's the
individual.
last townhome up there.
Oh, it's that one person is.
So,
Yeah.
and yes, we could require if we wanted to so do that, but that seems,
Harsh.
we'll have to talk about that.
But there
Yeah.
might be other ways to get it.
I think you're gonna see it the entire way, with just how we get there. Who's gonna pay for it is
Yeah,
what's under discussion.
Yeah, I
Yes.
think we need a separate discussion about that at some
Mhm.
point.
There are
and
more-
kind of
more parts with that.
prioritize the
I'll be back.
location.
So your idea, we all agree with, but
I just didn't know how far your powers extend or not. So,
Yep.
thank you.
Yeah, you can't make this property owner, you can't make them do off-site improvements.
You could ask them,
You don't-
If they would agree to that condition.
no. they don't have-
okay, any other discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Or the motion regarding the deferral. Modification.
So I'd move to approve the request to modify the requirements of section 220-5.13.B.1G5 to allow the existing buffer of 19 Douglas fir trees to remain and serve as the required buffer around the stormwater basin, noting 2 or 3 of the existing trees will be replaced. The applicant also shall provide an additional 9 evergreen trees between the existing stormwater basin and the proposed Fantastic building.
Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Does this have to go to zoning? Do you have to go back for any variances?
No,
Okay,
the
good.
buffer requirements come out of the buffer planting requirements come out
I mean,
of
all
the
the,
south.
all the information, though, I thought I read that they had to go back, so I'm happy with that.
Other discussion? Comments from the audience?
Martha Bailey, 450 East Lisburn Road. Similar to Eric's comments, the trail that goes down into Bowman's Hill, is that an official trail? Is that on any official map or right away?
Well, I don't think it goes the whole way to Bowman's Hill. It goes there by Bowman's Village.
Yeah, it goes down the power line from right behind Zimmerman's.
Right, into
Goes down
Bowman's
the-
Village and then sidewalks from Bowman's Village.
But I don't think it goes the whole way down to that street in Bowman's Hill.
Okay, I didn't know there was a Bowman's Village and a Bowman's
Yeah, there is.
Hill, but it goes into the development. I just wonder if it's officially there. Could become a liability situation.
There's a pedestrian easement for that to be a walking trail, but
Oh,
it's
good.
privately owned.
Good. Thank you.
But it doesn't connect with this property.
Right.
Yeah.
I checked it out.
Other comments?
So right now, we're talking about the
2.
We're talking about.
the buffer.
Yes.
Right.
19 Douglas firs remaining and
Right.
are we together? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried.
I'd move to approve the request to waive the requirements of section 214-18.J.1I providing for a means of emergency dewatering of the facilities with an under drain to be placed below or at the bottom of the amended soils to dewater the amended soils in emergency situations. Instead, the applicant will utilize the existing stormwater basin without an emergency under drain, as the existing outlet structure does not provide enough depth to install an under drain connection.
Is there a second?
Second.
So it's been moved in second. Discussion, as I understand it, this waiver is required because the stormwater isn't built to accommodate the dewatering. Correct.
You're not putting in any amended soils,
No.
so it's moot.
It
Yeah.
operates, it does now. Right. Other discussion? Comments from the audience? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. And the final motion.
Okay, move to approve the preliminary final land development plan for Fantastics Upper Allen Township file PZ 2408-07 with the following conditions, and there are 31 conditions. Since there are conditions on the approval of this plan, the plan will be rejected unless the owner applicant agrees in writing within 30 days to comply with and abide by the specific conditions of approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved in second. Discussion. Questions from the audience? All in favor, aye? Opposed, no. Motion carried.
Thank you very much.
All right, your work's not done, my friend.
I'm sorry.
Your work is not finished. You have to go do some drawing, line up
That's
a
right.
sidewalk.
That's
work
right.
to work closely with Jen.
will do that.
And keep this going.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anything else for planning and zoning?
I will just note that we do have a planning commission meeting scheduled for the end of the month on the 30th, that last Monday of the month, so 6:30 PM.
Can you let us know what's on that agenda or?
Yeah, so we have Autumn Chase Phase 9 and the Stratton House townhomes, which is a small townhome development off of West Lisburn Road, down towards Messiah University.
Jeez. Okay, thank you. Moving then to Gettysburg Pike, or I'm sorry, public improvements, and the item is the review of the pedestrian count traffic report on Gettysburg.
Tonight, the board is receiving the report from TRG regarding the traffic study crossing the Shepherdstown Crossing development in an effort to make that area safer. The findings are in there. The report was also at the table here for the public to grab on the way in and will be available online after this meeting. So tonight, we're presenting it to you for your review.
And I think there was one visitor that wanted to speak, Ms. Anderson.
Sorry. Amy Anderson, 1784 Autumnwood Drive. I reviewed this traffic study and it's good. It gives it gives reasons why we can't have the crosswalk where it seems like the kids like to cross. But that still doesn't solve the issue of the fact that we've had 3 reported crashes with children on whatever means of transportation they've had crossing in that vicinity by a vehicle. But that's the only ones that have been reported. So I do want to consider, when my son was hit, there was the gentleman that hit him didn't call the cops. The gentleman that waved him across and stayed didn't call the cops. The other adults that stopped as witnesses didn't call the police. The teenagers didn't think about it. So nobody called the police to notify that there was an incident or anything until my husband arrived, which was at least 10 minutes, so it was a good amount of time. If you see an accident, I saw somebody get hit on the Carlisle Pike, 4 of us called the cops. So people don't always call. So there's just saying that there's possibly more issues. And the traffic study points out good reasons why, we can't have that crosswalk there. The reason the kids go up there is the signals down at Market Street aren't exactly designed the best. So you press the button, you have to press the button to get the call, because I don't know if anybody's done this, to get the little white sign to go. but that only stops traffic in one direction. So I have seen 2 kids that I know have near misses with cars after they pressed the button and waited to cross by some car coming down that hill at Gettysburg Pike to turn right because they have a green light. So that's an issue because they're crossing when they're supposed to be crossing. They're in the crosswalk. Well, that car has no visibility and they're not indicated to stop. So that's why the kids don't cross there. They should. I'd like that to get fixed and then they can cross there. But then the issue is, well, there's no sidewalk on the other side. So if there was some way to at least get a sidewalk or some type of little paved path into that church parking lot, which is where all the kids from Canterbury, Meadowview, and all these other areas on this side of Market Street, how they access there. They come from the middle school, they go through that little path behind the church and they come across the parking lot, which is why they cross where they cross. And then the kids that come from, I know kids from Winding Hills that come over because they all try to meet at like Chick-fil-A or Taco Bell instead of being on a screen. I want my kid out and social, but it needs to be safer. So I know this study says that, you know, the original goal wasn't feasible, but there's definitely solutions out there. So I just implore that you continue to look for a solution. I don't want another incident to happen. I mean, I've worked in trauma hospitals for 20 years and the amount of pedestrian versus car, bike versus car, and the car always wins. So.
Yeah, I think that's something we can look into in terms of the timing, and I wasn't aware of the
Yeah,
situation.
it needs to be like an all stop if somebody actually presses the button and.
I agree.
Yeah.
And so we're in the process of modifying all the signals through the township and making sure they're coordinated, et cetera. We have a.
Yep.
Okay. So Tim, would you make note of that, and perhaps you too, Chief, and let's have our traffic ATS look at that and you understand what's being said here. That way, if traffic stops in all the directions, then in fact, a biker or someone walking could in fact get across and not be, because people do, you're absolutely right, come down the hill and they make a right-hand turn onto Market, and so.
And they don't break much until they get
One of
there.
my pet peeves, as I understand it from the chief, is when you come to a red light, you're to come to a complete stop and then make a right-hand turn.
Mhm.
And people are using that just like a yield sign.
No, it's like a California stop. You
Yeah,
just
that was
roll
one of
right
the-
through.
One of the original designs had a right turn lane coming down York, going northbound and continuously into a right lane.
Mhm.
And PennDOT said, no, if there's pedestrians in that, we have to have them come to a complete stop. So that
Well,
that
that
design was thrown out.
was a good choice, but with that wall and that hill, there's no way to see a kid. And then just addressing something for them to be able to, at least on.
And I was, one accident's too many, but I wasn't aware there was 3. I knew there were 2.
Yeah, we had looked it up that there's been 3, I think, in that area. Well, there was 2 within the past couple of months,
Yeah.
and then there was one previously.
Oh, okay.
I know another young boy who was hit on Gettysburg Pike a little further up, and he was injured and the car didn't even stop. So, I mean,
That's the
kids need
third
to
one
learn
I'm
safety.
counting. Or 2. Is that the third one you're counting?
No, I think there was one other one, but I'm not positive, but there's at least a couple. As far as the bike education scooter and stuff, I think that's great. The school resource officer, just as a parent's perspective, is probably your best bet to to make sure you cover your bases. Because I know a lot of parents don't have time to go to meetings and outreach and stuff, which is wonderful to continue to do, but you're gonna miss people. So that's pretty much it.
Erica, you signed up for this? Okay.
I was late.
No judgment. You came, so.
Lowgate signed up too.
Right when the sheet had already been removed, but I did write it on the sheet. Eric Vaining, 309 East Meadow Drive. I read the traffic study with interest, and I'm no expert, but I do have a few questions. The first one is more a concern. It talks a lot about the ADA requirement and compliancy. But but I'm very concerned about the one piece of sidewalk that is available from Market up to the Chick-fil-A entrance. There's a post right in the middle of it. And just to visualize it, I did send in a picture, and I don't know, Jen, if you can pull that up.
And we're gonna get it
The other one.
right there.
That one. And I understand the importance of the ADA compliancy, but a post like this, why are we concerned with a grade for pedestrian crossing if it's a lot harder here to get through with a wheelchair, with a stroller? It barely meets, I think it needs a 36-inch requirement, which it barely meets, but then halfway up the pole, there is a shield that sticks out that makes it narrower. It's 52 inches across if you include the grass. So I just have a concern that one of the reasons to not consider a crossing is ADA compliance, and we have a much bigger issue here.
Well, if I might.
Yeah.
Another reason in terms of that crossing is it wouldn't be allowed by or approved by PennDOT.
It would never be approved?
Yeah.
Okay.
Whereas this, they didn't, but I'm glad in your free time you went out and measured that. Is there a way, now, I shouldn't put this, but I'm not an engineer either, but it seems to me that there's a green strip there on between the pole and the wall. You could go about 6 feet and either side of that wall and put fill that in with concrete, then you'd have more room.
Yeah, we are aware of this pole issue. We've been talking to the developer for the last couple years with getting PP&L to relocate this pole because of the equipment that's on there. It's posed some problems. I did recently reach out to a certain someone at PP&L. So she is in touch with their engineering team to find out more information. So I'm waiting to hear back from that. But everybody's been aware of this pole and sidewalk issue and kind of getting around and having some separation with that drainage that comes out there from the pole. Initially, when we started this, I think we were hoping that the pole was going to be relocated and that missing piece of sidewalk would just be filled in and alleviate the concern. But there's been a little bit of a holdup longer than anticipated. So we're trying to get that resolved.
I guess there was not a condition like we just discussed for Fantastic.
It's bonded improvements for the development, but there was no set deadline because we were waiting. PP&L has to move the equipment and then move the pole before we can obviously have the developer put the sidewalk piece in. So.
Okay, so I wasn't aware of that either, but Commissioner Castranio suggested that PPL installed the pole at the wrong location initially. So they have a responsibility to move it. So if that's the case, then we'll have to do something to try to put pressure on that. But you're correct. That's a lousy situation.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
My question is a crossing as a official crosswalk the only option? Because if you go up Gettysburg Pike, you take a right past the hotel. No,
York Street.
Sorry, you go on
York Street.
Yeah, onto York Street. The Shepherdstown Church there has a sign with just a pedestrian warning with 2 white lines, just stating that this is a place where people can cross. It's not a crosswalk. It's just, and I should have snapped a picture and brought it. I'm sorry.
It's 2 white lines without the diagonal.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So it's not an official crosswalk that would require people to stop when you set foot on it, but it is still draws attention that there might be, that at least you concentrate in one spot where people go across.
The only issue is that we talked about that before. We can't even put like a fake crossing where there's nowhere to go on the other side right now. So we have to work with the church first to get a landing area.
Exactly. And that was, and it was brought up before that you ask people to use the front. Yeah, this is by the way, going south, there is not even a sidewalk. So yeah. And that's not all that important. It's just that to show that, it's like a dead end from basically the Market Street Gettysburg intersection. There's only one sidewalk and then in and out. And so it's not like you can go south and cross as an alternative. But then the other concern is that at the church, there is no sidewalk whatsoever. So we have a pedestrian crossing there, and it's the same issue on the other side of 15 by the McDonald's, that there's a crossing and then there's no sidewalk, which kind of then ties into, you cannot even walk from here to Fantastic because there's lacking sidewalks, which I think is now a township problem, not a individual homeowner problem. But I would surely second if something can be worked out with the church to get from the corner of Market and Gettysburg at that pedestrian crossing to get a pathway into the parking lot rather than constructing a whole sidewalk along the church property.
Well, those are all relevant ideas that we have to, I mean, this issue isn't going to go away. I don't think this board is going to ignore it now that the report is out. I think we got more information than we had before, and now we'll continue to look at options and ways that we can try to make the whole area safer. Won't be ideal, but we can make it safer, hopefully.
That's great. I didn't go through old minutes, but in a very well-attended meeting here a few years ago, before the permit was approved to build Chick-fil-A, there were a lot of concerns expressed about children's safety. And it's very sad that we talked about it, we were aware of it, and now we actually have facts that support that. That's not what we wanted. Thank you.
Well, I think you signed up to, yeah. Oh, it's okay. No worries. We'll give everyone an opportunity to talk.
Good. Thank you for letting me speak. Lowell Gates, 1140 Gettysburg Pike. We are the owner developer of the Shepherdstown Crossing. I came here just to hear everyone's concerns. I think the concerns are legitimate. Jen, if you could put the picture back with the sidewalk and the telephone pole. Certainly we have been aware of it. We explained to PPL originally that they put the pole in the wrong spot. We were told in King's English to not worry about it. We've told them repeatedly, we've asked them nicely and not so nicely to move the pole. So if Jen can assert some of the township's authority to maybe put some pressure on PPL, we'd be happy to cooperate in any way we can. We were wondering if, depending on whether PPL cooperates or not, we could extend the sidewalk over to the retaining wall, 4 or 5 or 6 feet on either side of the telephone pole, just to give ample room to get around. So, I mean, that would be a solution.
That was my idea too. It wouldn't be the best permanent fix, but it might be a good intermediate fix until PPL moves the pole.
Yeah, exactly.
You'd be open to that, I suspect.
I'm sorry?
You would be open to that if we filled that in with concrete then?
Absolutely, yeah. That would be an easy solution. We were kind of waiting in the hopes that PPL would actually come out and fix their mistake. But obviously they don't seem like they're willing to do that. So, and then Jen, if you'd be kind enough to put the other picture showing the crosswalk to the south side. It's hard to describe, but if you went across the crosswalk and then followed what would be the sidewalk to kind of the crest of the hill, there's a water.
Where is that?
That's not the right photo.
That would be looking south.
The Shepherdstown Hotel's on the right.
Right. The Union Hotel's over there. It's like looking from Chick-fil-A looking south.
Yeah. Okay, you good? So if you go across the walking area, and then if you followed what the indentation, which will be the sidewalk to kind of to the crest of the hill, there's a water detention basin that's right there. It's fairly large. That basin is still not done yet. We have to go in and there's a concrete monument or discharge that'll get installed there. We have to amend the soils and do some other things to finish up our NPDES permit. So we were holding off on the sidewalk because we're going to have to bring heavy equipment over the curb and sidewalk to get into the basin to finish it. So if, the parking lot, if you can see the orange cones, the parking lot from there up towards York Street is all crushed and compacted stone, so it's easy to walk on. I see numerous kids kind of walking through the parking lot diagonal up towards York Street, and that's totally fine. It's blocked off with cones because we don't want trucks and vehicles going in there and hitting some of the curbs. But so that is an alternative route to ride bikes or walk. So we're hoping to have the rest of the site completed, including that NPDES work, fairly soon. We had some issues with Chick-fil-A that kind of delayed the project, but those are behind us now, so it's full steam ahead.
Yeah, there's not a crossing at York
Yeah,
Street.
could you put up the property tax mapper? Maybe, could you put up the property tax mapper? Maybe we could see a better overview.
Well, while they're doing that, I hate to give accolades publicly because I forget other people that do nice things, but I just want to, while we're waiting, you cooperated with the township and suggested we have the town clock to kind of create a town center there. I think it is wonderful. And I don't know how many times I stop at 7-Eleven or for the traffic light and listen to the music. Thank you. And right now, I don't know who the master gardener is, but that corner is absolutely brilliant with the colors of the flowers and the thing. So thanks for caring about the amenities of our township.
Thomas Jefferson was a great horticulturist, so
He was.
I'm a big fan of Thomas Jefferson.
Okay.
Mr. Gates, I was going to say something similar. I mean, it's good to see you come out. I think you're a creative developer in a lot of ways. I see the variables here to maybe come up with a solution to protect the kids and all that, and maybe further, your own development interests of how we orient or can create trails in this area that could go both ways, for maybe from the children coming from Meadowview and the school, and then, from the mills of Shepherdstown, maybe being able to access, the school area, like the trees and trails park. I would think residents would enjoy that type of connection. And it just seems so bottled up right in the heart where the Union Hotel is, and those very tight intersections, no room for a sidewalk. And it seems like the children have found the line of least resistance, coming across the church parking lot. And it strikes me as a good omen that the church is willing to cooperate. This is the Town and Country Church. Or is that the right name? Country and Town?
Country and Town. Yeah. I've reached out to both the pastors and we walked the property, and they're even willing to put in with some assistance from the township, a fence to keep children from walking down through there, if that would help solve the problem. But that pushes the kids up on York Street, and I'm not sure that's any better.
But I appreciate your comments, Mr. Fairchild, and we'd be, I'm certainly willing to help any way we can, to make things, work better. I think once we extend the sidewalk up to, I think it's Mr. Fischel's property. I know he's getting up in years. We'd be happy to maybe extend the sidewalk an extra 10 or 20 feet into his property, and then maybe
maybe if Jen could blow that up or something.
Maybe the township could create a walkway across Gettysburg Pike over to York Street, and maybe make some, put some sidewalks in over there.
And then, the Daybreak Church expressed interest in having a trail across their property.
Absolutely, yeah.
It connect to your trail. So, I mean, it just seems like the pieces of the puzzle are all here. And the
Yep.
parties want to cooperate, that we can come up with something.
Yep.
Well, internally, you're going to have a connection over to Daybreak, aren't you? Besides the
yes.
street, there's sidewalks along the street coming down through
Yep,
there.
we're partway down the hill now.
Right.
Get back on the PennDOT side.
Okay.
And I know that,
But then how do people get, they go down to Daybreak, how and where did they get across Gettysburg to go over to the west side toward the parks and even, I apologize.
It's extremely dangerous to walk on the Gettysburg Pike.
Mhm.
It's extremely dangerous because it's a hill, people drive fast, but there's very poor visibility. And coming out of Daybreak, that is not safe whatsoever.
The short person, the York.
Can you bring them up? They have no idea who's speaking.
Well, what? Oh, okay.
It's what a town hall really is, right?
I don't want to monopolize the podium, so that's.
The intent was always, Ken, as I can just explain it, was that the Mills of Shepherdstown would tie into Daybreak. Daybreak had agreed to build a path around their parcel to tie into the townhomes that Burkentine Builders had built. And Burkentine had expressed interest in connecting that, but we don't have a legal mechanism that I'm aware of to make them tie into the sidewalk. So it's just a, will you do it? And then we were gonna have them extend the sidewalk down to Arborview. So there was never an intent to have people driving, walking on Gettysburg Pike in that area that they had talked about. But that doesn't mean kids aren't gonna say, hey, look, I can go 3 miles around an area or go 200 feet across a bad areas. So that's gonna be parental teaching.
Yeah, it's, I think, gonna need to find a way across Gettysburg Pike at some location. I don't know if you're aware, Mr. Gates, this is actually the second study that TRG did. They did one last July, and I was looking at it, trying to separate, well, anyway, the one last July, says the use of a gateway to Shepherdstown on the north and south side of Gettysburg Pike could be considered. A gateway would require signage and or landscaping with textured pavement treatments to alert drivers that they are entering the Shepherdstown Historic District. However, gateways are typically appropriate for local roads and not collector streets. Gettysburg Pike in this area is more representative of a collector road than a local road. It just seemed to me they were opening the door to the gateway. And I don't know if you're also aware, we're getting some very nice cast historic district signs. Welcome to the Shepherdstown District, on both ends. We're also doing it for the Yellow Breeches and the Trout Run District. So to me, there's an opportunity to strategically place those signs and have kind of the bulb in, which would slow down, obviously the road was widened to create that turning lane into the Chick-fil-A or Mills of Shepherdstown, but we can then narrow the road down past that point, kind of using the gateway option. And hopefully make it more attractive too. And just this textured pavement, it would certainly reduce speed. That's probably a contributing factor, how fast people are going up or down that hill.
Mhm. So, all right, well, thank you very much.
Martha Bailey, 450 East Lisburn Road. Just an out of the box thinking, we have a good crossing at the middle school. We have a light there. Maybe something could be developed up there and take them across Market Street at that point and develop a trail along that side of the not where the houses are, but have them cross Market at that point, go down towards the 7-Eleven and have access to that area. This is not as developed,
There's already sidewalk in a portion of that.
but I do like the gateway idea too.
Go ahead, Rick.
No, I think there is some sidewalk along the, on the road on that side already.
Along Market Street?
Yeah, right up there.
Oh, okay. So your suggestion, Martha, I call you Judy, So to go the whole way up to the top of the hill by the middle school, along Market. And then kids from Meadowview, et cetera, would have to cross York, but they would do it further away from Gettysburg and get over through the middle school and then come down. Okay. It's summertime, chief, and so there's probably more children out and about since we don't have school, et cetera. So I would not be opposed to some increased enforcement along Gettysburg. And you'll get some blowback because it's usually people that live in our own developments that are the speeders, but oh well.
So what I read in there's a PennDOT traffic calming manual about the various options. But to do a number of things like crosswalks or ball bouts and so forth, you need to have the studies justifying them. So it seems like we have 2 studies now. I'm a little less sure of the current study. It seems like if we have a safety, like we have a known safety or these accidents, with the children, shouldn't that be part of the study, or isn't that justification to go to PennDOT to ask for a crosswalk? I mean, you made a comment a while ago, Ken, you didn't think PennDOT would allow it. I mean, we know it's a state road, but given the accident history and speeding, there's a ranking system of.
Do you have any experience on that,
can
Jason?
request a flight.
Do you have any non-official comments?
Well, not really much beyond what TRG has already provided. I mean, PennDOT's pretty strict in their assessment of applying or installing a defined crosswalk. They have set standards and they don't really bend the rules in many cases. I think Eric's referring to the secondary or phase 2 level study that was originally presented to us by TRG. They did the one study that he's referring to that called for the gateway and some low-level improvements. And we have not authorized them to proceed at any further or beyond that at this point to further assess additional traffic calming improvements along Gettysburg Pike. So I think that certainly could be requested of them, and I would expand the overall scope, I believe, that we're requesting of the transportation engineer.
Okay, thanks.
I thought maybe that wouldn't fall to Davidson to design like a gateway. I thought they were doing the overview study. They offered 2 levels of study at the time. And like the least costly suggestion was paint lines on the road, which we did right away. I think the radar sign is in there.
Yeah, we certainly can assist with establishing a gateway entrance there. I mean, we have experience doing things of that nature in the past, probably in conjunction with TRG as well. But I don't recall receiving authorization to go to that next
level. They did engineering work like that. They were traffic engineers, but I didn't think they designed, physical infrastructure.
Yeah, they typically will provide the analysis or support for that, and then we'll lean on a civil engineer in many cases to assist with that layout and the actual detailed design components of it. It's going to also be a teaming effort as well.
Okay. And that's something we ought to keep on our public safety agenda too.
Public safety, and I would request that Tim put it on the public improvements, keep it on like we had it. Keep it,
And we'll do the same thing with public safety agenda. Okay. There's nothing else for public improvements. Let's move to sanitary sewer. There's no action items. Did you want to bring up your concern about yellow breaches, Eric?
Under what?
We're in sanitary sewer now.
Oh, I did really made the comment under stormwater, but there was an article in Penn Live about an independent group sampling the Susquehanna and some of the tributaries. And I noticed that it extended, along the yellow breaches up to the lower Allen Park, where it registered a high level of E. coli to the point of recommending people don't fish or, be in the creek. So it was gathering more information, does it extend further, up the Yellow Breeches into Upper Allen or western part of Cumberland County that we have an issue? And I guess that's going to be investigated, or Garrett is going to talk to the Yellow Breeches watershed people. And then the other aspect of it was, what level does it rise to maybe wanting to warn people not to, our own residents or whoever, not to, use the creek that way. And I was trying to remember, it seems like it's happened before. I don't know if we agreed with that or not.
I don't
stormwater
recall Yellow Breeches.
I don't know if it's seasonal or what, or if they're going to end up blaming it on the western part of the county. I mean, we know the city of Harrisburg has a major issue of a combined stormwater and sewer system dumping it into the Susquehanna.
I'm wondering if we've had so much rain, if there's septic down along there, some of the drain fields may have been flooded out and you might have had some runoff that way.
Yeah, it was a little bit disturbing to see it. We think of the creek being so pristine, but.
Okay,
So.
moving then to administration, budget update.
I'll be reading the report from Scott for this month. At the end of May, general fund revenues of $3,046,000 exceeded general fund expenditures of $855,000 by $2,191,000. The majority of the expenses this month are related to payroll and other personnel expenses. The township began receiving the real estate tax revenue from the tax collector in March and received its largest 2025 payment to date at $1,924,000. Real estate tax revenue coupled with earned income tax and transfer tax were the largest contributors to the revenue in May. The current year-to-date net position for the general fund is $2,498,000, which is slightly behind years 22 and 24. The net position is expected to gradually move upwards in May and level off prior to gradually dropping in the fourth quarter. That's for the general fund. The sewer operating fund is operating in a net surplus position of $829,000 year-to-date. This position places 2025 right with the two of the last three historical trending lines in the last 3 years. June is expected to see level operations with a drop in net position as sewer rental fees will not start quarterly collections until July. After the first quarter in 2025, expenditures are being managed within budgetary constraints. None of Upper Allen Township's funds are currently in risk of operating in a deficit. All funds revenues exceed expenditures.
Okay, thank you. Any questions on the budgets? Okay, as far as I'm concerned, we could adjourn the meeting now and just move on, but I guess that wouldn't be appropriate. So the next item isn't one that I'm particularly eager to address, but I think everyone is aware that we did receive a resignation letter from our township manager, Scott Frazier, effective July 18, and he is moving on for successive employment. We all have his letter of formal notification, and I think that all of us will agree that Scott has served this township with professionalism and dedication and has done just a damn good job. And so we'll miss him, but I think we have other alternative ways to run the township. So I would accept a motion to accept his resignation if that's the will of the board.
I'll move that we accept the resignation of Township Manager Frazier effective July 18th, 2025.
Is there a second? Been moved in second. Any discussion? I was curious. I wonder what he'd do if we vote no. Anyway. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. All right, we will communicate that to him. And then as good planning and to keep the township running smoothly, there's a proposal to appoint Tim Welding, our assistant township manager, appoint him acting township manager effective July 18, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved in second. Is there any discussion? Did you wish to give a campaign speech? I'm teasing.
No, you did a great job. Thank you.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, no. So, welcome, Tim. And Yeah, we will continue to move forward, but
I'd just like to say for the public that's watching and the public that's here that I've always felt that being a superintendent of a school district or being a manager in a municipal position are probably two of the toughest jobs in the world. I think that your bosses change every 2 years, and you rarely have people come in to thank you for the job you've done. Usually they're coming in to complain about something that oftentimes you have little or no control over. So it's a shame, but good people burn out, and unfortunately we burnt Scott out, and I wish him well in his new position.
as do we all. Thank you, Jim.
Just had a point of clarification. I just noticed in his letter, he references July 20th. Yet on the agenda, it's effective July 18th.
I think it's because of the weekend or a vacation day or something, so.
Got it, okay.
Yeah, you're right. Initially, it was the 20th, Phil, and let me see if I can recall. Yeah, the 20th is a Sunday, so it's effective that Friday. I think when he gave us the
Probably the
letter.
pay period, could be the pay
That
period
might
ends
be
on
the pay
Sunday.
period.
and it's
I
last
think
work
what he
days.
did when he tried to figure out how much vacation he had left, and so we'll make it the 18th. So you have to work that first weekend, Tim. Anyway, moving now to Park and Recreation. There's no agenda items or any reports or questions or thoughts.
No, our next meeting is next Wednesday, the 25th at 6:30.
Thank you. Miscellaneous, any report from the solicitor?
No, nothing this evening.
I don't think we have anything from tax collection. COG meeting I mentioned earlier was postponed, and we will have a meeting in July. MAB,
We meet at the end of this month,
do you have a date? Okay.
last Monday.
Okay, and then State Association, I don't think we have any updates there. Public comment? Yes.
Good evening, Eric Raining, 309 East Meadow Drive. On the topic of utility poles, Jen, if I may ask you two more. Fisher Road, thank you for the repaving, great job. Slightly easier to bike on with more width. But when you pass West Winding Hill, I don't know if you want to bring the property map, but there's a little S curve.
There's 2 poles there in the
There's
road,
2
so-
poles there that have orange cones around it. And
Yep.
they've had it ever since. Is there any plan to do something about
See,
it, or
the
are they
problem-
just decoration?
No, the problem we have is that utilities are not subject to municipal regulations. They're ruled by the Public Utility Commission. So they were informed that we were repaving and the road would be widened and they needed to move their poles. And when they get around to it, they'll move their poles. And there's little or nothing we can do,
Really?
really.
It's just
And
a
the
little
only-
further to the left.
The only organization worse than that is the railroad because they're actually ruled by the federal government. So when we went to do Hertzler Road, we wanted to pave all of Hertzler Road.
Yeah.
And the portion that goes underneath the train bridge,
Still isn't.
we had to go to Norfolk Southern and get their approval. And they said, well, yeah, you could do that if you spend $1 million on the bridge because it needs some repairs. So we paved up to the bridge,
And after.
left space and paved going out the other side because we weren't going to spend $1 million on a railroad bridge that we weren't going to touch. So railroads have federal guidance and utilities have state guidance, and we can complain, but with PP&L, we have a former township assistant manager who has a position there, so we get a little help there sometimes. But I believe it's that those are Verizon poles.
The PP&L has set new poles and they've transferred the electric over. Now we're waiting on the other utilities
Okay.
for
Yeah,
cable.
that's why I asked, because the poles are next to it.
Yeah.
That's what's somewhat
There's still
confusing.
wires hanging from the old pole.
So their clock basically starts after the poles are relocated by PP&L and they take the tops off. So now we're waiting for the other utilities to transfer before the poles can be removed completely.
And if you went there a couple of days ago, I noticed somebody had taken 2 of our cones and wired them together and thrown them over the wires.
Well, actually, there's a low hanging, just,
It's because they're
just,
hanging so
just,
low.
just past the curve, then
Yeah.
that's not the issue with the two adjacent or abutting poles, but just on that little S curve that's stretched there,
Yeah.
there's two wires that are sagging, and
Yeah.
yeah,
I go to
they're down
church- I
again.
go to church that way every Sunday and
Yeah.
I see it.
That is really bad. That needs attention. Thank you.
We're on it, but not much we can do. Anyone else? Sure. Well, you've been patient, so. But
About running out of air here. My name's Mike Hitchell. I'm from 2473 Coughlin Court. I'm here to complain about the noise at Ashcom again. It's been 4 years that I've been making these complaints and there's no notable change. Last weekend, they had the regular noise on Saturday, but then on Sunday, during the day from like sometime after 10 till after 4, it was out of control. I know we called 911 twice to report it, and I know another neighbor has too. So it doesn't appear like they have any consideration for the families or the homes that are on their perimeter of their property. And I don't know what the board has done to contact them in the past. I know I received word that someone from the board talked to them, and I think the police chief, this might have been like 3 years ago, and they were going to write letters to the DJs that do the music and put in shrubs to dampen the music, but none of that is working. And on Sunday, there's no room in my house that I can go to escape it. I can go in the garage. There's no location on my property that I can go to escape that. So my house is basically unlivable when they have these events there with those, with that music, with that noise. Now, if they're meeting that level of noise at their property line, then I think we should look at lowering that level or talking to them that they put up walls or something to absorb the sound and the shock waves that's generated from that location. Now, I know all the people on the south side of Coughlin Court feel the same way. In fact, some of them are very bitter about it. The other thing is it's not good for our properties because I can tell you it was the year before last, I sold some camping gear to a fellow from the borough. He came and he asked me how it was around there. And I told him, I gave him my opinion, and he told me he had a neighbor, his neighbor and his wife came by. They were looking at a place on Gleim when it was for sale. And once they seen the cars at the mansion, they came back on Friday and Saturday night, and that was it for them. They couldn't handle it. And I would suggest the same thing for maybe a board member. If you don't think I'm not just a sore head, to come there and drive around the neighborhood, like when they're having one of those events between like 8 and 10 o'clock and see how it is, even within your car. I'm sure you're gonna experience the same thing I do. So that's my bitch. And I think my partner, she's away now, but she said they might be looking for some sort of permit to do something else there and suggested that you hold off on any of that permitting until they address and resolve this noise issue. And I think they can do it. You know, right now, I don't know if they roll up the tents or what. I don't know how the speakers are oriented. They may be oriented, it seems, directly at my house, but I shouldn't have to be tortured in my own home. You know, it's unlivable.
Yep.
That's what I got.
Jen, could you show us where you live in proximity to the mansion?
Okay.
I mean, how many feet away are you from like the property line? You ever make that calculation?
About 80 yards north of the
He's on the property line.
mansion.
Chief, did you send people out?
There's Coughlin Court.
Did you take readings?
That's from the bottom of the cul-de-sac.
Okay.
Right. Going right at it.
I think you need to go further south. on
That's
your-
right there. You're on there.
There's got to be some
Maybe
temperature.
blow it
Mark
up a
said,
little
yeah,
bit.
keep hearing that as an excuse and that
He's on
Coughlin
Conklin.
Court, right there. There, okay. I'm the, let me see, I'm the third one left, right
Okay.
there. That's where I am. And that's about 80 yards to where they have their tent, where that music is generated.
Oh, so the white structure's in tent, right?
Yeah, that tent there.
Again, I don't know enough technically, but say you were to try to make a tape recording of what you hear. Would that replicate? Could you play that back at like normal sound and put a sound meter up to it and
No.
gain anything? Or doesn't work like that or not?
But one thing is, sometimes my hearing is very poor, but even if I don't hear it, sometimes, I mean, I can hear the bass, but I get there's a shock wave, a pulse. with
You
that
said the
bass.
vibration.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna
Right, I
say-
always feel that like you're at an intersection, somebody comes up from one of these stereos in their car, you know, even if the windows rolled up, you're the boom, boom, boom.
You're still there in
And
real
you're
time.
shaking.
Right.
I think that parking lot extends much closer to the, to that 312.9 line, because it's
Good money on the sound meter. There's
Gotta be a way that we could, yeah. So, Chief, there should be a way, well, I know that make sure that we have the best sound meter we can get, or if, you know, I know before you mentioned it doesn't always work during temperatures and all that stuff, so.
But we just bought it, what, a year ago? Maybe a little longer. Well, I was off the board before we bought it, I think, when I was on the board, so a couple years ago.
But-
And it was supposed to be a really, really good sound meter, right? Is it a very narrow temperature range that it works?
I can get that information for you, but
Please.
it is, there are limitations, but I can get that information for you. But we've all been trained on it. We have it, and we have used it, you know, when the conditions are right to measure the sound. I'm not sure if we have here. I know we've done it at other locations. So.
I think we need a concerted effort to try to monitor that.
I agree.
We tried to record it on, my girlfriend had her iPhone trying to
Yeah.
record it when we were talking to the police, but that doesn't work.
No, no.
We couldn't do
Should-
that.
With another.
Oh, please come up. Because we record and then people.
And streaming people can't hear you back here.
Martha Bailey, 450 East Lisburn Road. Would another police department in the area have the proper equipment that we could borrow? And are there fines that defined by our ordinances that should be applied?
Yeah, we have fines and we actually had petitioned the LCB so that we can set lower sound limits than the LCB sets, because typically in any location that sells alcohol, the LCB regulates them. So we've gone to the extent that we can regulate them, and we set lower sound limits than the LCB did. But if we're not getting any readings, we don't have anything to compare it to.
Well, and we're not getting them low enough, obviously, even though our ordinance is more stringent than LCB, you know, I think
And that's one
our
of the
resident
things,
is attesting it's still not low enough.
one of the things I was thinking is to set the standards lower for that, so we don't get that vibration and that pulse and the noise. And then after so many complaints, I would say a substantial fine, because that's probably the only thing that's going to get their attention. Because this has gone on for 4 years, and at first they were going to do something, or maybe they did it, but it hasn't worked. So
Was the original design for the outdoor pavilion didn't have walls?
The conditional approved plan for the conditional use did not have a tent. It had a structure.
So
I think
we can revisit that with the owner, can't we?
Well, it is a structure. So I don't believe it said it had to be like fully enclosed with four
Can you
walls.
look it up?
Because I know when she first talked about this, she was always talking about a tent that would be removable, like in the winter. And I think the first couple of years they were taking it down the winter because the tent doesn't carry the load for like snow and ice and stuff. But to my recollection, I don't recall her ever talking about a four-walled structure.
I mean, over on Mount Allen at Weinstock's,
Line stocks.
they They have,
He has that
he
addition.
has hard walls that he puts up. They can come down, but they're
Yeah,
not-
and they have the sliding doors that they can
Just
then
look at the
open.
conditional use plan, and you'll see a square, and it says, I think it says, it doesn't say tent, I don't think.
Well, yeah, so this is it is considered that tent is considered a permanent structure. Even if it does come down in the winter months, we still consider that to be permanent. It would still be a structure, just like a gazebo is a structure. I can look at the conditional use information, but that's just what I recall. I don't recall it being fully enclosed.
Can you do some more research, Chief, too, to see if we can get a better sound meter or
Well, and
make sure
and
the one that we have is working?
do we have we have AV people that work on our equipment in
Sure.
here. Do we have someone we can talk to, Tim, to tell us about sound meters and the temperatures that they function best at and
I mean, I could certainly check with the company that we use and have them meet up with Chief as well.
yeah, give Chief some professional advice as to what we might do here?
Because one of the other things I learned is they're planning on operating that year round and it's just not on weekends anymore. So anytime they have an event there, it's,
Mhm.
Was there a limit with the original approval in terms of weekends or certain days of the week or?
Time limit.
There were some time limits with outdoor music with
Right.
regard to the tavern, when that would come through.
Okay.
I don't recall any other limits, but I can look into that. It's been a few years since that approval came through.
I very much appreciate it.
No, keep coming. I mean, I feel your pain, but we'll have to, see how creative we can get to solve the issue. Yeah. Anyone else? Do we need another exec session or we had one before? Is there anything?
Not that I'm aware of.
Not that I'm aware of. Tim? No. Okay, then I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved?
Second.
Move to second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, no, motion carried. Thank you.